Preparing live stream for the webinar. So this is the first time I'm ever doing this. So hopefully nothing breaks.
Alexa, thanks for being here.
Breaks.
Sorry, I don't know that.
All right. Awesome. I think we're live. I think everyone's on here. Let me just double check with my team to make sure that everyone's good. Do you see the live stream? Oh, awesome. Man, I love my team. Great. So thank you everyone for joining us on this webinar. It is one of many. We are revamping our entire YouTube channel and presence, and we love to kick it off with something extremely special and someone extremely special, Mr. Jesse Elder. Jesse is a close friend of mine, and we actually met a little over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, actually, at Baby Bathwater originally. And then we were playing like lawn darts or something like that with bow and arrows with foam tips on them, just having fun in the side field. And then we connected again at another mastermind. That
was in Austin.
Just over a year ago.
Yep.
Very small group of people, and you and I established a really close friendship and relationship, and we've been chatting ever since. And I'm honored to call you a friend, but I'm also stoked to have you on because I feel like your knowledge, expertise, wisdom could be so beneficial to our audience and many other people.
And the second you messaged me, said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? It was just an instant yes. I mean, I'm just such a fan of what you and Catherine are doing with Best Self, and then just you personally, and then the fact that we get to share this with your audience, who I know is also awesome. Just really, really looking forward to this.
Thank you. So Jesse and I were talking, and I sort of did a little bit of research to figure out, okay, how am I going to position Jesse? Because I know him personally, but how can I position him to someone who's never heard of him before? So I had to take some notes. Robbie Richmond is, quote unquote, the minister of culture at Zappos. So if you know anything about Zappos, they're huge. They live and breathe culture inside and outside of their company. Apparently, when you open up the doors to their facility in Las Vegas, you just feel the energy flood out of the building. That's the type of culture that they possess there. He has quoted Jesse as being the Bitcoin of personal development, which is incredible. So I hope you sit down, take some time, maybe an hour out of your day. This shouldn't go more than 60 minutes, and sit down and really hear and learn from Jesse, because he truly is a pioneer in what he's doing. And I'm stoked to have him here.
So glad to be here, Alan. And fasten your seatbelts, everybody. Lord knows what's going to happen today. And I know this is a free live stream, but let's just pretend you paid thousands of dollars to be here, and that thousands of dollars covers your entire seat. But this morning, you're only going to need the edge, because here's what's going to happen. All the stuff that's going to come out today of your brain and your heart, and it's already freaking there. And so don't get all seminar-y. For those of you who love going to seminars and workshops, what am I going to learn today that's going to change everything in my life? Well, you're probably going to do some de-learning today. You're probably going to unload some deleted paradigms, all these ideas that are actually holding you back, that you think you need to get more ideas. This is going to clean everything out. So glad to be here, and we're ready to dive in.
Awesome.
With the Q&A, I know that if you guys have questions that you're on here, Alan and the team will be watching those. So if you have something that comes up, fair warning, some of the stuff that I say today may trigger you. It might trigger a reaction. It might trigger a response. It might piss you off. And that's not my intention. And I'm also completely, totally willing to field those, and to together, you watching this and me here, we really have an opportunity to take your own personal development and take this dialogue farther than thought has ever been. I mean, this is a leading edge thing. So if you have questions, pop them in there, and we'll have plenty of time at the end. And here's what it's all about. You probably wouldn't even be on this video, right? You wouldn't even be on this webinar if you didn't have a sense that your own growth is important to you. I mean, this is not like some frivolous company that you bought a journal from. You bought from the best self company. That implies something about you as a human being. It says something about the trajectory that you're on. It says something about how seriously you take your life, and probably how much joy and how much fun and how much love you'd actually like to experience in your life, not later, but now, right now. And so I may not know you, we may not have ever connected before, but I believe I know something about you because I trust Alan, and I know what kind of a company they're building, and I know something about what they're attracting. So I might not know you personally, but I'm going to take a risk here and say that I think you and I have in common the fact that life is actually pretty freaking awesome. It has its bumps. Sometimes those bumps last for 8 or 9 years of totally dark periods. And maybe this is the day that whatever darkness, whatever grossness, whatever you're stuck with, maybe right now is the moment that all that starts to be undone. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to ask you, why are you here? Like, why are you here right now? You've got millions of things you could do with your time. You could be watching cat videos. You're on YouTube. You could be watching all sorts of, people are awesome videos, or maybe just prank videos. You could be watching any other video on YouTube, and yet here you are watching this one. So my curiosity is, why exactly are you here? And if you want to get all metaphysical and type in like why you're on the planet at this time, that's fine. Or like, what do you expect to get out of it? So feel free to type it in the questions. And Alan, if anybody pops something in, then you can let me know. And if not, if they're just sitting there eating popcorn like Michael Jackson, that's fine too.
You got it. Absolutely.
So this idea of advancing our life, and this idea of doing so in a positive way, we've already got the cards stacked against us because we live in a logical educational system. We live in a society where most of us have been trained to use logic to figure out the solution to the problem, so that then the problem goes away and we get the desired result. So most of us went through an educational system of learning how to have formulas and have equations to solve problems. There's certain mathematical formulas, there's certain scientific formulas that if something isn't working, well, there must be a formula that we don't know. And if we just learn the formula, then we'll figure it out. So it's created this insane external focus on happiness, this external focus on positivity, that if I want to have a more positive life, there must be something wrong with me. So let me go get to the bottom of the problem. Let me get to the root of the problem. And once I learn how to get rid of the problem, hopefully then I'll be happy, or at least a little less grumpy. For most people, this is a win. Decreasing your grump factor by 2% per day over the course of a week is proven to make you less of a hole to be around. I muted my own profanity there. I carry my own profanity muting. So here's the deal. Do you really want to settle for being slightly less pissed off? Is that the ultimate goal? Well, maybe it's not the ultimate goal, but it is a step. And you might not be pissed off at all. You might think, no, man, my life is actually flowing. Everything's working the way that I want it to. I'm just looking for a couple of extra tools. Well, the deal is, positivity is not some end game. Positivity is not some marathon finish line that after a bunch of struggling and a bunch of hustling and a bunch of just grinding your face off, then you get to arrive at this outcome called positivity. That is a very costly belief. That's a very expensive belief to have. And I've tested this myself. I went through years of struggling and went through a lot of depression in my early 20s and was trying to figure out, how do I make my life work? How do I just feel better? At that time, I was teaching and competing in martial arts, and I had a dream of opening a martial arts school, but I always struggled with feeling negative. Like if I was teaching, if I was working, then I was fine. But man, I used to dread Sundays, because Sunday's the one day that I didn't have class, and I couldn't distract myself by teaching other people. I couldn't distract myself by working. And I was really confronted. I was confronted with this loneliness. I was confronted with, who am I? You know, why am I even here? Man, it got dark, and I started to dread Sundays, so much so that like on Friday afternoon, that would usually kick in. I would already start to dread Sundays, because now it's the weekend and I only have one more day left on Saturday, only one more day of teaching and engagement and really being in the flow. Sunday morning, I would already wake up just feeling that dread. And it got dark, man. It really reached the point where I was questioning my existence. You know, if I can't just feel better, like, what's the point? You know, I don't want to spend the rest of my life distracting myself with work and distracting myself with trying to enroll the next student, or, you know, that, like, what about just being at peace, man? And it was dark. Fortunately, throughout that time, I had a lot of great coaches and I had a lot of good mentors. And while I didn't have the courage back then to share openly what I was feeling and what I was experiencing, I got enough support workshops. But the thing that I found with so many of these, excuse me, so many of these seminars and workshops is that almost every single one of them was thing. Then you've got these limiting beliefs that are inside of you, and it's because of these limiting beliefs that you don't feel so good. You don't feel the way you'd like to feel because you've got these limiting beliefs. And here at today's seminar, you can get rid of 3 of them. You know, only 3. That's how much this seminar covers, is 3. But the next seminar, the upgrade seminar, you can get rid of 7 or 10 or whatever. And that's cool. Those are all really neat tools. But what I began to experience is I kept chasing something that I never seemed to be able to catch. I kept chasing something that I didn't seem to be able to close in on. Sure, I mean, I could make more money, and that was nice temporarily. And if you're listening to this and you're like, no, dude, I would just like to make more money. Trust me, if I made more money, I'd be happy. And yeah, that's actually true. I mean, there are many, many, many examples in your own life, I'm sure, that when you did make more money, you did feel better. Money is an absolute amplifier of emotion. But in my own experience, I found that those temporary fixes, having a good business day, winning a tournament, you know, those were temporary things that caused conditional happiness, but it wasn't that base level well-being and positivity that I really was craving. I mean, I just wanted to wake up feeling good for no other reason than that I could. You know, I didn't want to have to make $1 million and then feel good. I just wanted to feel good just because I'm alive. And all these seminars that I kept going to, all these workshops, it seemed to push it further and further away. Because then I'd go and then I'd see what all these other people were doing, and I would compare myself, and then I would go, oh God, man, I'm not doing anything at all. And it actually created a deeper depression afterwards. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, you know, that success hangover, you know, being around a bunch of other people who are putting on their seminar face, and you don't actually know a lot of times what's going on behind the surface, but they sure look like they got it going on. So I just thought, you know, there has to be a better way. I'm going to figure it out. And I started to do that. I started to aggressively split test different approaches to just feeling better. And what I found blew me away. I started doing the simplest things, like literally something as simple as taking a pause out of my day, just taking a pause, stopping, and just getting present. And I began to just notice what was around me. And the moment I stopped, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but when you stop moving, it's like your brain gets louder. You know, when you're in motion, you know, your brain's got stuff to do. It's got problems to solve, problems to create. But when you stop moving, man, that mental chatter gets really loud. You know, your ego starts kicking in. And so I began to allow myself just to feel that. So I would just stop. And I would just take a few breaths, and I would look up at the sky, and I would just notice, not trying to judge anything, not trying to think of a plan, not trying to pump myself up, just notice. I would just stop without judging, and I would just start to observe what was going on. And after about 5 or 6, maybe 7 minutes of this, I actually found that I started to feel calmer. Now, back then, that actually made it worse. Feeling calmer kind of freaked me out, because I thought, God, I'm going to lose my drive. I'm going to lose my momentum. All this energy that I've worked so hard to create, I'm going to lose it. But then I realized, no, that's actually just stress that I'm confusing as motivation. It's not motivation. It's not inspiration. It's just stress. So what I was actually feeling as I got calmer, I was feeling this naturally occurring sense of well-being, this naturally occurring sense of peace. And literally, it was 5 minutes away. And that blew my mind. It blew my mind that I'd go on to seminars and spend thousands of dollars and airfare and hotels and all of this, that I'd spent thousands of dollars to arrive at something which was only 5 minutes away from any given choice, just the choice to stop and pause for 5 minutes. And it was free. That blew my mind. It was free. And every time then that I started to feel a little bit stressed or a little bit anxiety, I started to feel like overwhelmed, I would say, okay, I can do what I've done before, which is take all this anxiety and try and make something happen. Or I can just take that as a sign that maybe I'm, reaching the edge of this gear. It's time to shift gears. So let me stop. So I would sit down. Sometimes I'd close my eyes. Sometimes I wouldn't. And I would just pause. And I would turn my phone off, wouldn't have any distractions, and I would just pause. And I began to experience some very interesting phenomenon during that time, not all of which I could explain. But I began to feel as if time was operating differently. I began to feel as if somehow in those 5-minute chunks, it was like I'd stepped into some sort of parallel world. It was very odd. And I began to experience that as I would go into these 5-minute, quiet spaces, I began to feel like I was in a room in a house that I'd lived in all my life. I just didn't know that room was there, and it was like finding this treasure, finding this space. And I began to enjoy those, and it may make them a little bit longer, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, sometimes, 10, 15 minutes, but that was it. I found I didn't want more. I didn't need more, because what happened in that pause was so profound. And I began to experience, it was as if I'd stepped outside of reality somehow. I'd stepped outside of the real world. And it was like I was in my own private place. And in that place of putting the world on pause and in getting present with what I was thinking, what was I feeling? What was I noticing? What was my mood? What were my feelings? I began to feel something very beautiful, very strange. But I began to feel this energy, a sense of well-being, a sense of happiness. I began to feel calm. I started to feel actual joy. But it wasn't like like let me relax. It wasn't like that. It was electric. It literally felt like I was, plugged in, like I was being charged somehow. And as soon as I began to have the awareness of that energy, it was like the awareness of it intensified it. And the more that I focused on that energy that seemed to be in me or seemed to be all around me, the more that I focused on that, the more of it there was. And it got so powerful. And it wasn't, enthusiasm, it wasn't just like positive attitude. I'd done that. I mean, I'd learned to fake it till I make it and pump myself up and act as if I'd done all of that. This was very, very different. It just felt like me, like this is who I actually am, outside of all of my goals and my mission and my purpose. And this is me. This is just me. Whoa. And I began to realize that this is only 5 minutes away. And that instead of there having to be lots of things to learn and do to get to some result, instead of that, it wasn't like I had to go and chase something. In fact, I had to stop chasing and just allow. I had to just allow what was already there to come in. I had to just allow that energy that was all around me. I had to just allow it to come in. And in fact, chasing it seemed to push it further and further away. Stopping seemed to draw it closer. That energy, whatever it is, whatever that energy is, I realized it's always there. And in fact, chasing an object, chasing a relationship, chasing money, chasing a title, chasing a trophy, chasing an experience, hoping to get the feeling that all of those things have, actually, the chasing was pushing the feeling away. So when I stopped chasing, when I confronted the fact that I was lying to myself, what I was calling motivation was just stress. And I realized, like, stressing myself out like crazy so that I reached the point of exhaustion. And then when I finally rested, I felt better. And I thought that that was the reward from being all stressed. I realized this makes no sense whatsoever. That's like punching myself in the face because it feels good when I stop. And I thought, screw that. I'm just going to start to explore this presence, this present moment more. And I did. And eventually I started getting up to around 20 minutes of this experience of presence. I began to schedule it. I didn't always feel like doing it because my brain was just like my worst enemy. How can it be so easy? You went to the seminar and you paid thousands of dollars, and here's this guy talking about how you can achieve this great result. Just come to my seminar. How can it be that none of these jokers are just saying you're fine? Why wasn't any guru or any teacher just doing a video saying, hey, here's the deal. It's all good. Stop chasing. Just chill. Just chill the heck out. It's okay. You're fine. You're healthy. You're actually indestructible. You might have some stuff going on that's the residue of your momentum, but just pause. Just put the world on pause. 5 minutes a day. That's all you need. Why wasn't anybody saying this stuff? And I began to realize it was either because they knew that free power, that free energy, they knew that it was in everyone. And they knew that if everyone got that their seminar sales would tank. And so they just weren't saying it. It was either that or they weren't teaching that because they themselves didn't know. And as I have gotten more and more over the last couple of years involved in the seminar industry and the personal development industry, there's a lot of amazing souls. I mean, there's so many incredible people that are really doing good work in the world. And there's a lot of people who on camera are so convincing and charismatic and compelling. But the moment they get off camera, they are stressed out of their mind. One of the most famous personal development authors in the world literally doesn't sleep because he's scared to death that he's not going to be productive enough. When I was building my karate schools, I was scared to death of not teaching because that was my identity. Who am I without that? And as I gave myself permission to just be and just experience presence and stillness, not only did I experience this natural flow of well-being, but I began to realize that this is actually where you code reality. This beautiful reality that we find ourselves in. Right now, I'm in Santa Monica, California. We got the ocean just right over there. And it's a beautiful day. And I get to be here talking to you and hanging out. Well, you made choices that brought you here. I made choices that brought me here. Those choices, the thoughts, the words, the feelings, and the behaviors, every one of those is a choice. I mean, we choose our thoughts. You might not feel like it when you got a lot of momentum going. It might feel like it's just happening to you. But literally that pause allows you to see what you've been choosing. Choices are how you code your reality. You're literally only 4, maybe 5 choices away from doubling, even tripling your income. And that might sound a little bit harsh or simplistic if you're not where you want to be. But here's the reality. Every one of us, me, you, every one of us is actually where we want to be right now. The reason I say that is because we always choose what we actually want. Now, we might not be able to make sense of that. We might not see the cause and effect. We might say, no, I'm not choosing to be, 48 pounds heavier than I'd like. That's not my choice. I agree that consequence, that effect is not a choice. And I've literally worked with thousands of people to release lots of unwanted weight. And in every single case, as the fat started melting off of their body and they just became leaner and sexier and had more energy, it was very predictably a result of them choosing new things. Why? Because they now wanted new things. They no longer wanted to, binge watch Netflix, for example. That's a choice. It's not like Netflix grabs your ass and sits you on the couch and says, here, you need to watch 8 episodes of Black Mirror. That will help your life. I'm not knocking, Black Mirror or Netflix. That's what popped into my head. But nobody's forcing any of us to do that. We choose to do that because we want to do it in that moment. So to deny the absolute, total, 100% unconditional power of choice that we always have, if we deny that, then the only alternative is to continue to be a victim of circumstances. And I've seen too much. I've experienced too much to believe that we don't have choices. Some of the choices might not be obvious, or we might not know how to get to the end goal from here. But that's okay. You don't have to know all the steps. You just have to feel. Just feel. What's the best next step for you? I'm not talking about the next best step, like you're just going to settle for being here. I really want this, but I can't have it. So let me just get the next best thing. No, next best implies settling. Man, we're not here to settle. We're here to live the most badass, beautiful life we can. So I'm talking about the best next thing. What is the best thing that you can do today from where you are right now? And I know that there's a lot of emphasis on taking massive action. You guys probably saw Alan and Catherine talking to the big guy, to Tony, who's a huge proponent of massive action. Take massive action, take massive action. And I agree that massive action is a necessary ingredient in a life of fulfillment and joy. But I'm also here to tell you, action is not how you make things happen. Action is not how you make things happen. Action is how you experience what is already happening. And what is already happening is a cause set in motion by your thoughts, your words, your feelings, and what this environment that we call life is actually responding to you. Your environment, your world, your reality is a reflection of your dominant thoughts and words and feelings. Your reality reflects your expectations. You always experience what you expect. There's no evidence to the contrary. Now you may say, yeah, but my grandfather died of cancer. Are you telling me that he expected to get cancer? No, I'm not saying that he expected to get cancer. What I am saying is that living in a world where people operate according to statistics and averages creates a very powerful unconscious expectation. If you expect something to be difficult, you can't be too surprised when it is. If you expect to meet resistance, how can you be surprised when you meet resistance? So action is not how you make things happen. Action is how you enjoy the experience of what is already happening. And if you're saying, yeah, so what? I'm just going to sit back and do nothing and all this stuff's going to fall in my lap? Well, you could look at it that way. And I'm not saying that might not happen. But think about it this way. Haven't you ever had a really good meal or been looking forward to a really good meal? then maybe you put some food together with some friends, or maybe you went with a really special someone to a nice restaurant. You know that the meal is a part of the experience, right? And yet you're not in a rush to get to the meal because you're enjoying going to the restaurant, or you're enjoying preparing all the food. And as you're enjoying preparing the ingredients and enjoying preparing the food and then cooking the food, and maybe you're drinking a glass of wine or, a nice kombucha, and you're enjoying the conversation and the music, and, maybe the weather's nice, and you're preparing the food, and then the food is ready, and then you sit down and you just look at this food that you've prepared, and there's this anticipation, and you're kind of hungry, and then you take that first bite and you bite into it, and the flavor is just so good, and you're appreciating the flavor and enjoying the flavor. And then just, oh man, the texture, and then you see everybody else enjoying themselves, and you get to experience the pleasure of seeing someone else enjoying themselves and knowing that they're enjoying yourself. And it's just, wow, it's just this great meal. And then you keep eating and drinking, and it's just fantastic. And then you finish the meal, and you're satisfied, and you just have a full belly, and that feels so good, doesn't it? And now you're not in a hurry to eat. You're satisfied, but now you're going to go and enjoy something else. And maybe you're going to go and watch a movie, or you're going to go and play games, or maybe you go for a walk. A very nice thing to do for yourself after you have a nice meal. So then the meal's in the past, but you're still enjoying what is. Now you're enjoying the next thing. You're enjoying the walk. Do you see how there's never an arrival? There's only now and next. Now and next, now and next, now and next. That's all there is. You never finish. And so the action of enjoying the meal, cutting the food, the eating the food, the tasting the food, the swallowing the bite, and enjoying the meal, enjoying all of the pieces of that, would you want to delegate that? Would you ever want to say, you know what, I'm going to prepare this meal, but you go ahead and eat it for me? Or you go ahead and, let's liquefy that meal and set up an IV, and I'll just, inject that meal intravenously into my system so I don't have to bother with the chewing and the eating of it. Are you kidding me? That's like delegating your sex life. There are things in this life that we get to enjoy. You get to enjoy eating the meal. You get to enjoy preparing the meal. You get to enjoy reflecting on the meal and enjoy having a full belly that fuels you to now go on a walk, and then you get to enjoy the walk. So I'm not suggesting that massive action or action isn't important. What I'm saying they can understand that. So when you are experiencing the flow, when you're experiencing the pause and the energy and the ideas that come naturally, I'm telling you, action is a natural result of that. My life changed dramatically when I stopped forcing myself to do things I didn't want to do. Instead, I would just pause and I would get clear on, why am I doing this? What's my reason for doing this? And then I would get reconnected to my purpose. And then I would go, oh yeah, let me do that. But I also found increasingly that there's just stuff that I'm not interested in. And I began to realize that feeling of procrastination was actually like a spiritual self-defense. That was my soul saying, hey buddy, that ain't for you, dude. That is not for you. Yeah, but that other guy's doing it, and then she's doing it. She's doing all that stuff. Yep, that's not for you. There's another way. Okay. So I began to be open to those nudges, those intuitive hits through the practice of meditation, taking 20 minutes and just experiencing this pause, and then experiencing the ideas and the appreciations, and then starting to imagine and pre-pave my future. and then getting more ideas. I would come out of 20 minutes of meditation feeling energized, feeling grounded, feeling clear, focused, feeling happy, and so eager to take the next step. It took all the stress out of massive action. So massive action wasn't something that I had to do to get to a result. Massive action is something that I couldn't wait to do. You see the distinction? So many people live life doing things they don't want to do, hoping to get to a place that they want. But you can't suffer your way to success. That's illogical. You can't punish yourself into prosperity because you're never finished. There's always the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And what are you going to do? Bust your ass and experience a bunch of pain and suffer and struggle and headaches and exhaustion and chaos so that what? One day, years from now or a couple of years from now or whatever, you can cash out and then you can relax. You think after 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years of practicing being a stressed out human being that you're going to instantly flip the switch and not be stressed? No, you will be a master of stress by that time. Now is all that there is. Right now is all that there is. Right now is the only moment that exists. And right now, you're either in alignment or you're out of alignment. You're either in the flow of your life, feeling the fullness of your own frequency, the fullness of your own signal. Nothing to hide, nothing to prove. Or you're making choices now to do things that you don't want to do, be in connections and relationships with other people that you don't really enjoy, making a choice to live in a place that doesn't really reflect the beauty of your soul, choosing activities and habits that don't honor the fullness of your heart's desire. Those are choices too. And there's no right or wrong in any of it. If it's working, keep going. If it's not working, then you can appreciate the fact that you just noticed that it's not working. Now, maybe you can make a new choice. But there is no future. The future doesn't exist. Because when you arrive, it won't be the future. When you arrive, it's going to be now. This moment right now is your future from yesterday. And the better you get at your present, the better you get at feeling the way you want to feel right now, for no other reason than that you can, the better you get at experiencing that present moment, the better your next present moment is going to be. It's the natural trajectory of life. It's the natural flow. And you have an amazing opportunity in every moment of your life. And you don't need anybody else to experience that. I promise you, there's not another human being on this planet that has the secrets to your joy and your well-being and your happiness. There's not another human being. There's not another teacher. There's not another coach. There's no mentor. There's no guru that has the secrets to your happiness. Your happiness is in the present moment, right now. And it's as simple as allowing yourself to just pause. Just put the world on pause. Allow yourself to begin to experience one breath at a time. And when that momentum and that energy comes up, let it. That's natural. And eventually it'll simmer down, and what will be left is a calm, peaceful, slightly giddy experience of you. You are enough. That's it. Like that's all there is. It's just you. And when you give yourself that opportunity to experience that, then over time, every moment that you allow yourself to experience that, that presence gets stronger. That presence becomes a part of your normal waking consciousness. You carry that presence into everything that you do. You carry it into meetings and conversations. You carry it into your creating your art. You carry it into writing. You carry it into work. You carry that presence with you, and you become increasingly aware of things that are working for you and are no longer working for you. And you begin to shed old, stale ideas about how you're supposed to be. You begin to delete the dogma. You begin to release the resistance. And if other people start saying, hey, I started noticing you're different, you're not the same as before. You'd be like, I would hope so. I would hope so. And they say, yeah, but it seems like you're a little full of yourself. And you'd be like, who else should I be full of? Of course. And you are too. These are the choices that you get to make every day of your life. I would invite you to go back and watch this video a couple of times, because there's a lot of information that is counter to much of what you've probably been taught. And sometimes with repetition, there's a remembering. There's nothing you need to learn. There's nothing that I can teach you that's going to restore the fullness of what you already are. I don't have the secrets for you. Tony Robbins doesn't have the secrets for you. Deepak Chopra doesn't have the secrets. Eckhart Tolle doesn't have the secrets. Oprah doesn't have the secrets. Nobody's got the secrets to your joy and your well-being. Sure, there's seminars and workshops and things you can go to explore that, or take 5 minutes out of your day, put the world on pause, and begin to experience what that's like. If there's an inspiration in that for you, just follow it. And if you think this is all a bunch of BS and you think this is just some weird bearded dude with blue eyes just talking to you with crazy ideas, well, then that's probably your reality as well. In a second, we'll open it up to questions. And before we do that, I just want to say how appreciative I am to you for making time in your day to give yourself this experience. And if you'd like more, we'll give you some ways to follow up. There's some amazing, I would call them tools, but they're really more reminders of what you already know innately. So it's a little bit like, just having a map, except the map is for kind of where you're already sitting. So if you'd like some tools, if you'd like some maps, we'll show you at the end how you can get those. At this time, let's open it up to any questions.
Jesse, the comments flowing in, I know you can't read them, and I know I wish you could, and we have to figure out a way for the next time you come on for you to see that, because they're coming in. And let me just read a couple of these. So going back to some of the earlier ones, I've been grumpy for no reason, trying to figure out why. And then right after that, I was typing this before you even said the word grumpy. So I think you hit the nail on the head with everything you were discussing. A lot of ahas, a lot of takeaways, a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, I'm getting the chills, or this is so powerful. One person even said, I'm getting the chills, and it's not because my heater is broken. So
awesome.
One question is, okay, so you said you would take a moment in your day to stop and be present and just stop the forward momentum, because we constantly create problems just to solve them. And when we stop, the noise gets louder, and that scares us. So then we continue to move forward. What is
very great summary.
Yeah. What is one simple way that for someone who's not taken a break in their day to take a breath, that feels a little overwhelmed in doing that, or doesn't really have a practice to do that? What's one takeaway or simple strategy that they can do to
yeah, awesome. That's a great question, Alan. And it's one that, here's a technique, if you will, that I used myself. I still do quite a bit, because my brain, we're entrepreneurs, man. So we're always, what can we create? What can we do? How can we help people? And so that just stopping doesn't always feel so good. And so what I found early on, and I still do, is that having an activity to do that's not a problem-solving activity, it just gives the brain something to do, and it allows some presence. My preferred tool of choice is to go for a walk. And I'll go for a walk and literally just, if I'm traveling, I'll just explore the neighborhood I'm in. If I'm at home, I'll just, go for a walk around the neighborhood. And I find that going for a walk, here's the shocking part. No phone. Leaving my phone at home and then going for a walk. It's a secret weapon, man. It is an absolute secret weapon of productivity, because then without the phone, then you're forced to think your thoughts, and you're in motion. So if you start getting stressed, you just walk a little faster. And if you start feeling good, you walk a little slower, or walking is very, very powerful. And I found myself sometimes, getting back and I'm like, I think I just walked like 6 miles, because you just get in the zone. So I would absolutely suggest that for someone who has a lot of that mental energy that gets spinning up. Just go for a walk and do it outside. Get on the pavement, get on the grass, not a treadmill that goes nowhere.
And maybe depending on where you are in the world, if you can do it barefoot.
Barefoot, right? Yeah, man, that's such a great tip. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So how can you learn to trust yourself so that you become your own teacher and stop looking for answers out there?
Yeah, that's a great one. Mostly, I do a whole a 2-day training on this, ironically, which is stupid if you think about it. That I'm delivering a 2-day training on how to trust yourself, but literally the entire 2 days is going through all of the sources that we were taught are smarter than us and know better than us, and actually just one by one, lovingly, permanently dismantling them. So it's the experience of strategic self-authorization. How you do that is really simple. Begin making choice. First, you feel for what's right for you. What do you actually want to do today? And how much of that is momentum? How much of it is expectation from other people? How much of it is not wanting to rock the boat? And then just say, what do I really feel like doing? And I had a client who flew to Texas to work with me, and we're having breakfast, and this is a big issue for him. I want to trust myself more, but I don't, because what if I mess it up? Blah, 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 all this stuff. And I said, okay, well, and I'll use the word guilty pleasure. Like, what's a guilty pleasure that you've got? He's like, man, when I was younger and going to college, I used to watch movies during the day. Like, it was a really big thing. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything to do. So I would go watch movies. He said, I always miss that. And I kind of like secretly, I want to, I still want to do that. And I'm like, well, why don't you? He's like, oh, I feel guilty. I have work to do. The rest of the world is working. And I said, well, you're an entrepreneur, right? He's like, yes. I said, so who puts things on your schedule? He says, well, I do. I'm like, okay, pause, let that sink in for a moment. And so we're having breakfast. It's Monday morning. He had flown in on Sunday. And I already know the plan of what we're going to work on strategically for him. And this dude's dropped $10K to be there for the day. It's not an inexpensive experience. We finished breakfast and I said, all right, you ready to get started? And he's like, yes. Like, he's ready to dive in and build the strategy for a fulfilled, successful life. And while we were at the restaurant, I bought tickets to a movie. And we went and saw a movie at 11 o'clock in the morning. And it was at the nicest theater in town. And as it turns out, we're the only ones in there. And here we are, two dudes leaning back in these giant recliners with blankets. The theater gives you blankets. They bring you popcorn. And we're sipping Don Julio 1942 tequila with popcorn and our blankets. And we're just looking at each other going like, this is weird, but cool. And you could tell he's getting riled up. He's like, yeah, but isn't there other things that we need to work on? Da, da, da. And I was like, the movie's about to start. And before the lights went down, I just said, here's the thing, man. You know, you're 38 years old. It's a Monday morning. You're at the freaking movies. The rest of the world is working. How much more free does it get? And he just goes, and then we just watched the movie. And we came out of the movie, and then it's like, 1 o'clock, and we still have the rest of the day. But the whole rest of the day was chill. It was awesome. It was relaxed. It was just easy. And I just said, dude, this is how life gets to be, man. You get to make choices. And then guess what? If you finish the movie and you were stressed out of your mind and you would have rather been working, then great. Now you know, but you never know until you test it.
Absolutely. So going perfectly dovetailing that gets us to the next question. There's a couple more here. We'll see how long this answer takes. I want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Yeah.
How do you stop yourself from feeling guilty or taking breaks or a day off? There's so much on social media out there about grinding 24/7 and stories about people getting started, never took a second off or sacrificing everything. So simplified, how do you stop feeling guilty for taking breaks or taking a day off?
Stop watching Gary Vee videos. No, the reality is I like Gary a lot. He and I spoke at Ryan Moran's event, and we spent some time in the green room. What I really respect about Gary is he is like who he is. And what I mean is who he is on stage is who he is off stage. He is authentic. Grant Cardone, can't stand that guy. He's duplicitous. Just my opinion. But Gary teaches the gospel of hustle and grind because that's who he is. I don't know whether he's aware of these natural laws that are operating on our behalf all of the time, and that the slower you go with intention, the faster your results. Being on stage is a result in itself. I couldn't have taken a break when I was, in my 20s, because not just for feeling guilty, it wasn't guilt. It was, I didn't know who I was if I wasn't teaching. So it was the terrifying fear of being confronted with my own lack of purpose. I just felt on purpose when I was teaching. So it wasn't guilt, it was fear. So I would just say, for anybody who's dealing with the guilt of taking time off, ask yourself, is it really guilt? Or are you afraid of what happens when you're confronted with that silence? Because now you get to actually think your own thoughts, feel your own feelings, and process that. That's the actual shortcut to becoming ultra human. Because when you become hyper present, time works very differently for you. You begin to have intuitive hits that are, this is definitely a topic for another time, but when we begin to get these creative downloads, and that turns into the best idea of your life, the best money-making thing, the best person to connect with, you can actually make your intuition tactical. But the deal is, when you're hyper present, when you practice this presence and this stillness for periods of time, you begin to have the best ideas of your life. You think you're imagining them. What you're actually doing is that is the memory of your future self, because time isn't real. So everything exists right now. That version of you that's a year down the road that already had a successful business is remembering you today, and you're feeling that memory. So you think it's creativity, you think it's a download. You're like, oh, I got this good idea. No, you didn't get the good idea. You were given the good idea because you, a year from now, is remembering back with appreciation to the you that you are today. It's called time piercing. It's a very simple strategy. It literally is the last personal development program. silence and hyper presence is what allows that. Most people are too chicken to do it.
I love that. And everyone's going, oh my God, mind blown, this and that. And we may have gotten into a little bit of deep water with our audience as far as time piercing. But for me, I love the idea of it, the principle of it. Interested to hear more about how that could, maybe some of our inner circle members can tap into that or whatnot. Let me go through a couple other things here. So Janet Smith asks, what makes you stressed out?
Practice, usually. If I practice stressing, I get pretty good at it. I don't know. It's tough to remember. I had a lot of money stuff growing up. You know, we lived in a trailer and not the whole time, but for a period of time. And then when I was starting out in business, I had, you know, the wonderful experience of not having money to pay bills and, you know, lights being turned off and all that stuff. And what I realized though, is that it wasn't the money, it was my energy around the money. And so I began to just allow myself to feel that. And I remember being stressed about that quite a bit until I realized that it was only because I was tying my identity up with money and thinking money meant, you know, if I had more, then that somehow made me more as a person. Once I realized that money is just a resource, just like oxygen, and there's as much of it as you allow yourself to breathe in, then I started chilling out. Yeah, stress, I don't know. I'll feel energy, you know, something will happen that maybe affects a family member or a loved one, and I'll feel, you know, emotion. I'll feel, you know, concern, or I'll feel, you know, some fear. But again, those are human words that we're giving to this electrochemical, biological energy. If we don't label the word, if we just allow ourselves to feel the energy, it always converts into fuel, and it always turns into ultimately light. Like everything in this universe is just made of light, moving at different speeds. So that energy just changes, and you become peaceful. You realize that everybody's having their own experience, and the only experience you can actually control is yours. And the greatest gift is the gift of your own well-being. So it doesn't make sense for me to be stressed, because that has a negative effect on other people and myself. So I just don't make those choices anymore.
Awesome. You introduced me to an app called Insight Timer. And yesterday I found a guided meditation. Now I normally do the prime light meditation with the chimes. But yesterday I opted for one of the guided meditations. And one of those was, or the principle behind it was how to remove yourself from your thoughts and feelings, because they aren't you aren't the feeling that you're feeling. And you are not the thought that you are thinking. It's just coming into whatever plane or existence you're in, and you assume it and you take control of it. But once you separate yourself from it, you can breathe. It's like, oh, wow. That's
Isn't that cool? That's so powerful. Yeah, we have thoughts, we have feelings, but we're not our thoughts and feelings. And that goes for everything. I mean, we have relationships, but we're not our relationship. We have a business or a job, but we're not our business or job. We have bodies, but we're not our bodies. So it's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Last question, and then, man, we can go on forever about this. I love it. How do you, or do you have any tips on how to drill down to what your purpose is?
Yes. There's a feeling of purpose, and purpose is a direction, is not a destination. So you never arrive at I just fulfilled my purpose. It's not a static thing. You never arrive at north. You can only travel north, and so you never get north. You just go. You're just traveling there. So purpose is the exact same thing. Purpose is a direction, not a destination. And there are experiences in our life. There are behaviors we can engage in that feel more or less on purpose. And so actually I have a program called the 12 Rituals, and it teaches, there are 4 rituals of purpose to help someone define their purpose, to identify it, to experience it, to express it, and to refine it so that you're continually unfolding your purpose. And then there are 4 rituals of path. Once you're in the flow on your purpose, then it's like, well, how do I activate that in the world? How do I live according to that every second of every day? So that's your path. And then there's your plan, which is what are the actions that I'm taking? So the 12 Rituals is a really, really powerful program. We actually just put that in to, I'm retiring all of my virtual content. I'm going back into the laboratory and spending a lot of time just going back into creation mode. So all the material that I've been producing for the last 4 years, we're actually going to be deleting it from the public. We're making available right now a legacy package where all of those programs, 12 Rituals, the Prime Light Meditation, for all the entrepreneurs, ethical cult building, which is a super, super powerful program in audience and connecting organically. All these programs, putting all of these things into one bundle. So if people are interested in that, they can send me an email or just look me up on Facebook.
Amazing. Where would you like people to find out more about you or learn more about this?
Yeah, Facebook is the best place. I'm on Facebook, Jesse Elder, this guy. Insta also, I'm just my face. It's the only one I got. Not as good looking as you, but one day. So maybe in virtual reality, I can be as good looking as Alan Brower.
Virtual reality, we'll have to play.
So Jesse Elder Live on Instagram or Facebook. And if people are interested in getting, because I literally don't know when we're going to pull down the legacy package. I've had 3 clients message me. They're like, this is like, I paid a lot of money for one of the programs that are in there. People aren't going to take it seriously. Like, it's too cheap, blah, blah, blah. And I know that sounds like marketing and stuff, but it's the reality. So I hesitate to offer it here because by the time somebody watches the video, it might not even be available. If they want to send me an email, they can, jesseelder@me.com or mac.com, JESSEELDER. And just put in the subject line legacy package, just so I know that it's from our communication here, because I'm not giving out my email everywhere, only to Alan and Best Self Code.
Cool. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for this. Everyone, I was taking notes while you were sharing your wisdom. A couple big things. Calm equals no energy or drive, or that's what it used to mean. But really, in reality, calm means you can get there quicker. So
yeah,
that's powerful. Thank you, Jesse.
Awesome.
Appreciate this. Guys, please follow Jesse on Facebook. We will bring him back again. And I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this. Thanks.